Welcome back. Now, it does not look like Nigeria is winning the difficult war against oil theft. This is because the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says it recorded 240 incidents of crude oil theft between July 15th and July 21st, 2023. That is just a period of 6 days. It's incredible and clearly paints a picture now of the enormity of the challenge Nigeria is dealing with as far as oil theft is concerned. The NNPCL Limited says the illegalities were discovered using its maritime intelligence system. Now, giving a breakdown of the incidents, the company says it discovered 93 illegal pipeline connections and 69 illegal refineries, adding that these connections were ongoing. And you can imagine how long it will take to disconnect and seal that number of illegal connections. It's just unbelievable. Now, the report also identified 27 cases of pipeline vandalism, 30 wooden boats and trucks involved in transporting stolen crude, 13 vessel AIS infractions, 5 oil spills, 2 illegal vessels, and 1 document validation. Now, given further information, the NNPCL Limited disclosed the precise areas now where these illegalities were found. 13 were recorded in deep blue water, 41 recorded in western region of the Niger Delta, 17 occurred in the eastern part of Niger Delta region, and 169 recorded in the central region of the Niger Delta. The company says it will not relent in its fight against crude oil theft in the country. But to be candid, this is a tough war that is costing Nigeria billions of dollars. Let's now get more perspective on this. Joining me on the show right now is oil and gas expert Bala Zaka. Mr. Zaka, just help us to understand this. I mean, 240 incidents in just a space of 6 days. That is mind-boggling.
You're right. It's really mind-boggling to Nigerians who are probably discovering the level of criminality in the oil and gas industry, especially in the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry. But for some practitioners and oil and gas operators, especially international oil companies and local oil companies, it's not something that is a surprise. And that was why most of the time we were talking about business climate hostilities, especially in the Niger Delta, as it affects the Nigerian oil and gas industry. When we were talking about business climate hostilities, we were basically talking about the difficulty when it comes to operating within the Nigerian oil and gas industry. But for oil and gas industry practitioners like me, I think I'm very happy because to hear this from an energy journalist like you, and from your prologue, you also said it came from the government this time around, which is positive for me. The reason why I said this was because in those days when we were experiencing business climate hostilities and international oil companies that we technically call IOCs were running away to look for better, cheaper, and safer investment havens, we wanted it to be brought to the surface. But the leaders then were saying that the international oil companies were divesting, and that they were divesting because they wanted to invest in other areas. But I keep saying, or people like me keep saying, when you have difficulties within a family, come out and say it. Members of your family will come together and contribute in finding solutions. And if the bad eggs are within the family system, there is a need for parents to come out and say it. Because in that process now, amongst even the bad members of the family, there may be a turnaround in their respective conscience. And that's what we are experiencing now.
And let's talk about this sorry to interject you. Let's talk about this turnaround now. I mean, not quite long ago, I remember the government launched a massive military operation to check this oil theft, and so many discoveries were made. You know, we thought things were going to get better from that point. But you look at this, 240 incidents in just a period of 1 week. It appears, you know, we're not seeing results from the security operations in the Niger Delta to protect these oil facilities.
Well, for practitioners like me, I think I want to say we are seeing improvement, because the number you are talking was probably a triple before, or quadrupled within such time frames, you know. But what we are seeing now, at least it is very clear now that the detective mechanisms are working. But before now, preventive mechanisms were failing us, detective mechanisms were failing us, and corrective mechanisms were also failing us. And that was why some of us were saying that the government should come out and say it, or our leaders should come out and say the truth. The IOCs were not looking for cheaper or better investment havens, or they were not actually divesting. They were running away from business climate hostilities, because Nigeria is one of the best countries to come in and invest in the oil and gas industry, until we got ourselves enmeshed with criminality. And we got to a point where we felt probably there was a kind of connivance and collusions. And I'm saying this because some years back, we remember a minister in this country said Nigeria was losing about 400,000 barrels of crude oil per day to thieves and vandals. And at that time, a lot of people will think it's just, you're talking about just a few buckets of crude oil. But we all know that the unit of crude oil is called barrel, and in a barrel you have 42 gallons. And in a gallon you have 4 liters. So if you multiply 400,000 by 42 to convert it to gallons, you will get about 16 point something million gallons. If you try to multiply that by 4, you will get about 60 something million liters of crude oil. If you divide that by a 33 liter tanker capacity, that will give you about 2,000 tankers of crude oil per day being lost. I can tell you that to some of us was a well-crafted and a well-syndicated and a well-coordinated criminality. It was very clear that when a country will be losing at that rate, there is no economy that will survive. There is no investor that will survive. But we are even happy now that such discoveries are coming out and deployments are made to checkmate them.
Let's talk about these disconnection points. I mean, the NNPC says it discovered several disconnection points, and that it is trying to restore these points now and seal them up and all of that. Now, that must take some time, and then it must cost money to fix these pipelines back, isn't it?
Correct. But get something clear. Before now, those disconnection points were in hundreds and thousands, and nothing was being done, because we were pretending that nothing was happening. But it's even good now that there is this confession, and there is a call for all stakeholders in this case to come together and let us rescue and save the image of our country called Nigeria. And what I mean by that now is all the security men needs to come together. All the community leaders need to come together. The oil companies also needs to come together. The youth needs to come together. This time around in national interest. Because if you look at it, somehow, somewhere, you could have saboteurs from any of these stakeholders. Saboteurs could be from the community. Saboteurs could be from even the oil operators. Saboteurs could be from the security agents. In fact, saboteurs could also be from the agents of government. But it is very clear now that what has been happening, has been demeaning or has demeaned the image of Nigeria. What has been happening has clearly placed Nigeria as a country where criminality holds sway. What has been happening has clearly shown that, there is no way investors will survive operating under such criminality. And it is also clear that if investors who come to work in partnership with Nigerians, cannot survive, it will just be a question of time. The effect will be seen in our inability to meet up with our OPEC quota. The effect will also be seen in our inability to meet up with our internal production quota that will make us to even take care of our internal concerns and breach our budget deficit or budget gaps.
Look, there's no question at all that this is costing the country now billions of dollars. But in all honesty, do you think this is a war we can win, the war against oil theft?
The war against oil theft can be won. It's very, very simple. All we are saying is this: criminality can never last. Criminality is a function of collusion. Criminality is a function of threat that took advantage of vulnerabilities to cause harm. And in this case, we are experiencing economic harm. The only thing we need to do now is to ask ourselves, what have been the vulnerabilities? Once we take care of the vulnerabilities, we will be able to take care of the threat. But like we said, the vulnerabilities could be from the communities. They could be also from security agents. They could also be from even the oil operators. They could also be from the angle of government. What we just need to do is to declare what we technically call state of emergency in the oil and gas industry. But most importantly, sensitization is very important. Right from the oil locations where all these leakages are taking place, if we start with sensitization by making the communities to know the effects of the health hazards that are visited on them, we are likely to win from that angle. When we take the sensitization to the oil operators themselves, to make them understand that if amongst them there are bad eggs, their investment will always have issues. They will not be able to break even. There may be improvement. If we take it to the government angle also, and we made it clear that if the government, if operators are not doing well, there will be no revenues for the government. And if there are no revenues for the government will collapse. We also need to make it clear in the course of our sensitization that what is even happening is painting a bad image on Nigeria on the international scene or international pedestal. It has started. It might take some time, but it is a fight that we shall eventually win. Before now, we were just docile. At least we have woken up.
Well, I just hope so. And I hope we win. Everyone prays we win this war because it's costing the country so much and it affects everyone. Balazaka, oil and gas expert, thank you very much for your time and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, just how does ECOWAS respond to the coup in Niger? That's what we'll be discussing next. Don't go away, stay with us.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On Digi 360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
Digi 360, dissecting the issues.